So we had this great idea for a new video. That's how you start a segment.
That's right.
It works really well. We thought, okay, we've got all these silly songs, and they're all over the place, like one per show, and then we've done our sing-along videos, and each one of those has its own silly song, which of course you'll never see unless you bought that sing-along video. We thought, well, gee, it's really an obligation to try to pull all these together and give them to people so that they can, it's for the people.
It's for the people.
Of the people, by the people, for the people. They need their silly songs in one easy-to-carry package. But then we thought, well, wait a minute. Which one is the silliest? I mean, just out of our own curiosity, what do people think of all these songs? How would they rank them in silliness? And that hatched the idea of, okay, let's do a whole contest, a campaign where people can vote for their favorite silly songs, and then we'll do a video that counts them down, number 10 to number 1, like Casey Kasem, and gives you the silliest silly song of all time, as picked by the fans. So then we got kind of excited because that was a fun concept.
Right,
and then
and then
Mike got involved.
All downhill after that. Because what happened was
we're still answering letters,
and the video hasn't even come out yet. But what happened was we needed to create a script, sort of a vessel to carry all these songs with. So we came up with a few concepts. What do we do? Is it like a standard countdown thing, or should we create a vote scenario? Or I forget all of the different concepts that came up. The one that we settled
Cajun
on,
chefs,
Cajun
manatees.
chefs. The one that we settled on was this contraption of silliness. So the pirates, we wanted to introduce the pirates back to our audience because they're going to be in the film, in Jonah film. Should we say that right now?
Don't tell anyone.
So we wanted to bring the pirates back into the scene, and so we wanted to fashion the show around the pirates. Who count down using this contraption that they've concocted,
Right.
the astonishing
and
contraption of
since they
silliness.
really have only ever existed in a silly song,
Right.
which is one of the candidates for silliest silly song, it created the context, the subtext, the subplot
Right.
of them wanting their song to win.
They wanted their song to be number one. So, so what I did before I started the script,
Because you don't have a story if you don't have any conflict.
That's right.
And that
That's
gave us
right.
our conflict.
There was our conflict. So I took a poll.
This is where things started to go wrong.
So you got to start from somewhere. So I needed to come up with some idea, some guess of how the fans would vote for the songs to be able to come up with the sequence, then to write the story around. So I did at the office. We have about 170 people working here. So I sent out an email. Please send me your 3 favorite silly songs. So everybody sent me theirs, and I tabulated them, and I came up with a list. From that list, the pirates that don't do anything were number 7. So I thought, okay,
Way down there.
Way down there. So probably, which worked to our advantage because that would be great because there would be that conflict. They'd come up, earlier in the poll, close to 10. They'd be upset about, and they try to rig the election to go their way. So I thought when the public's vote came in, it would be, maybe 6, maybe 8. I thought it would be pretty close. But that was before we put the pirates on all the marketing materials, for the countdown that got sent out.
Evidently boosted their popularity.
It did. People thought, pirates, I remember that song. I like that song. And so so what ended up happening when the votes started to come back in was
For a while, for a long time, the pirates were coming in number 1.
They were coming in number 1. And I had made the comment when I had read the script through to people. I did a read through for the marketing group and for the animation group and the studio. The only thing that could possibly go wrong with this script is if pirates came in number 1, because it would blow the whole conflict. There would be no conflict because they wanted to be number 1 and they were number 1. So we'd be in big trouble if pirates were number 1. But I said, there's no way pirates are going to be that close to the top. But for a long time, they were coming in number 1. We'd get the votes. We had an outside accounting firm. Counting. I don't know if they were accounting, but they were counting something.
Firm.
they were tabulating the write-in votes, and then our own website was counting all of the web votes. And then when we pulled them together, Pirates was number 1, and it was Pirates and Hairbrush, and they kept passing back and forth, and we were sweating it out, but we realized that no matter what, it was either going to be 1 or 2, so this script that we had wasn't working. Just wasn't, but we had already animated it, and so, or almost finished animating it. So we came up with like 5 different things, and Tom Bancroft, the director of the show, who actually isn't here today because his wife is having a baby,
which may produce another silly song.
It could be. But he and I and Phil started talking about different scenarios to work this out. Either one of the option was to just throw out all of the shtick created by the pirates, trying to rig the vote.
All the funny stuff.
Yeah, which would have worked, but yeah, it got rid of the funny stuff, and it would have gotten rid of a whole lot of animation. So that was one option. The other option was to rig the vote ourselves to where it came in. But we didn't want to do that because we're good people. We're honest
good
people. That's right.
We live by the values we put on our videos.
That's right. That's right. We wanted to reflect the will of the people in the count of the silly songs. So that wasn't an option. But then we came up with this idea of, okay, well, what happens if when Pa is earlier in the script, or before, when pirates were still number 7, when the pirates came up as number 7, Pa stopped the countdown and he dumped new votes into it, new fake pirate votes that would get it further toward number 1 in the countdown, and then it came up a couple more times. So Pa needed to stop the countdown. He says, "Whoop, wait a minute, stop the countdown." And that still happens in this version of the video, but what we ended up changing it to was the machine itself spit out a goofy, silly song, compilation name, like the Yodeling Cebu Lips, and then Pa, "What, stop the countdown, there must be some malfunction with the thing." So that's how we remedied that. And then at the end, we used the whole, when they came in number 2, that's when Pa, and that's the real order, Pa stopped the countdown, dumped the phony votes in, but then they made him,
It was all a vote rigging story, because
Right.
it really came out of Florida. This was right after the election in Florida that we
Right.
started cooking up this idea that, oh, vote rigging is hot. Let's do something on vote rigging.
Right.
That'll be fun.
Right.
And then it turned out that the vote rigging to put them in number 1 wouldn't work because they were coming out in number 1.
Right.
They ended up coming out in number 2. So we did a little tiny bit of vote rigging at the end so we could still have our vote rigging fun.
Right, and it worked out really well. It's surprising,
The will of the people
prevailed.
overruled the will of the staff and made for some rather tense editing moments.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it was scary.
God bless us, everyone.